Hello. So, slowly moving to the final pieces of today's agenda. So everybody who's outside, please do come in and join us. Also grab a seat. Mentors, experts at the bar, I see you. Grab a seat. So, for the next 30 minutes, we are speaking about scaling impact. And that's a very dear, very close topic of mine because we are also launching the Accelerate 2030 program officially in Serbia. Here on the stage, joining us will be Ljupka from Impact Hub Geneva and a global, I would say, coordinator for the Accelerate 2030 program. And then joining on the panel afterwards will be Tony and Antony. So guys, do join us on the stage while Ljupka reads the presentation and we're going to kick it off.
Zdravo svima, hvala što ste se vratili posle pauzu. Ja sam Ljupka Mitrinovska iz Makedonije originalno, ne južna, one druge. Sada radim za Impact Hub Geneva i moj engleski je vrlo bolji nego moj srpski, tako da I will continue the presentation in English from here onwards. So my name is Ljupka. I'm the program manager of Accelerate 2030, a program co-initiated by Impact Hub Geneva and UNDP. I'm here today to talk about how entrepreneurs can actually contribute towards a better world and how entrepreneurs can actually solve actual social and environmental problems. Last time I did this kind of presentation in the Balkans, one of my Serbian friends made fun of me that I came to the Balkans with a Kennedy speech of don't ask what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for the country. But I think I'm in a better crowd now in terms of talking about impact-driven entrepreneurship. So I'm really happy to present the program, and I'm really happy that we have Serbia this year on board. So kicking off, I hope that some more people will join as we move forward, but in interest of time, I will just move forward. So Accelerate 2030 is a global program targeted at impact-driven entrepreneurs that tackle important social or environmental problems that can be connected to one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. I will unpack this a little bit more and I will talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. But just to kind of frame what kind of entrepreneurs we're looking at. So it's entrepreneurs that solve important social environmental problems and that are at a growth stage and are looking at scaling their impact. And we will talk a little bit more also about what it means to scale impact and what kind of support we're trying to offer them for this. So I will start with, you saw there the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's something that I will repeat several times. So just checking the temperature in the room of how many of you have heard of the Sustainable Development Goals or have seen this image before or feel that you actively work towards one or more of them. Okay, perfect. That's quite a good percentage. For those of you that didn't raise your hand, to bring you up to speed, so basically the Sustainable Development Goals are a continuation of the Millennial Goals of the UN. It's the agreement among world leaders and governments on where our world needs to go in order to address our most pressing challenges. So basically with the Millennial Goals, when the time period ended, we realized that we actually didn't achieve the goals that we needed to achieve. And many people were skeptical, but then several leaders came forward and said, no, actually we need to work harder and need to work more integrated across sectors in order to really solve the most pressing challenges in the world. And these are the 17 goals that were agreed upon a few years ago. They're structured into different topics like no poverty, zero hunger, health and well-being, and so on. But even though you see many different boxes, this doesn't mean that these are like isolated and separated kind of problems or goals, but they're actually very much interrelated. And just to kind of unpack a little bit of what does it mean, what does a box contain, or what are we talking about, I'll give you a few examples. For example, in terms of health and well-being, even though we're technologically so advanced. There have been so many medical discoveries in the world. We still suffer of like very banal problems of people dying from preventable diseases, untreated drugs and alcohol abuse, preventable birth defects, and so on. And as you see, only one of the statistics is that 11 children die every minute from preventable disease. Then if we look, for example, at the Sustainable Development Goal number 6 on clean water and sanitation, there are still so many people, even though the access to water is getting better, still as cities grow bigger, the access to good sanitation is getting worse. So there are less people that have access to safe toilet in the 21st century at the highest level of technological advance of humanity. And more people have a mobile phone that have a safe toilet at the moment, which I think is a really scary statistics. And if we look at another one of them on affordable and clean energy, this is not just about the environment and climate change, but it's also about the threats of not using clean energy. So basically around 4.3 million people die every year from pollution resulting from using cook stoves. These are just like a few examples of a few of these goals, and basically what this framework is trying to capture is what are the biggest challenges that humanity and our planet are facing at the moment, and how are we going to address this until 2030. And another name for this whole framework is Agenda 2030, because this is what we've agreed that we want to achieve by then. So hence the name of the program, Accelerate 2030. What we're trying to do is to put entrepreneurs on the map. And I will say a bit more about that, but just for those people that maybe were not so inspired about the problems or the challenges and want to look more on the business side, here's an interesting statistic. Based on a report on the Business and Sustainable Development Commission, achieving the global goals is a business opportunity of $12 trillion. And they looked at 4 sectors where if we work on those and if we focus on different kind of business sectors in these areas, the business opportunities of this size. So there are challenges and there are a lot of opportunities. And within this context, we were contacted by the UNDP a few years ago, wanting to actually showcase entrepreneurial solutions that are a good business and investment opportunity. They wanted to show that the SDGs are not just an issue of the governments and NGOs, but basically that there are entrepreneurial solutions that work well and that are profitable and that are investable. So this is how we started Accelerate 2030 in order to bring entrepreneurs from developing and emerging economies to the Social Good Summit in Geneva. But for us as an impact hub and being part of this big impact hub network, it was important to really build a bigger picture out of it and develop a system on how we can select entrepreneurs that tackle important challenges and how can we really support them in scaling their impact. We've run the program, we are currently running the 3rd edition of the program. So far we've had 24 countries on board, we've reached more than 2 million people. At the moment applications are still open for the 3rd edition in Serbia and Mexico, but we have more than 1,500 entries. And we've managed to engage more than 40 partners, and I think the numbers are a bit higher this year. So I want to talk a little bit more about what's different about this program, because the name is a little bit misleading maybe when you hear Accelerate 2030. Some people call it Accelerator 2030. We don't position ourselves as an accelerator program, and we're looking at scaling impact, and we don't invest directly in the ventures. So what we're exploring and what we're experimenting with is what does it really mean to scale impact, and what does it mean to scale sustainably? So we talked a lot about growth and just bigger is better and push forward and so on, but we're pretty much at a stage at the moment where we've crossed some of the planetary boundaries. It means that if we continue working in the current economic model and just pushing and growing within the same economic system, and we will talk a little bit more about this afterwards, we will just reach a limit of growth where there's nothing to grow anymore. We will just run out of resources. So what we're trying to explore within Accelerate 2030 is what does it mean to sustainably scale? And the framework that we're using is, first of all, starting with the individual, with the founder, with the entrepreneur, and the team. What is success for you? And what is success for you in a holistic view, not just success in terms of business growth, but what kind of life do you want to live? How do you want to grow your venture and your success, having your holistic well-being into regard? I guess you're aware of the epidemic of burnouts that exist, especially in the entrepreneurs field. And we've worked with entrepreneurs that have gone through brain injuries due to burnouts. So we really want to have these conversations at the beginning of the program of what does it mean for people to sustainably scale for them and their teams. From there, we'll look at how to sustainably scale the model or the organization or the impact that question. And here we're looking at different scaling strategies. It doesn't always have to be growing your own business. If you're really interested to achieve impact at scale, there are other strategies, right? You can look at strategic collaborations, open innovation, social franchising, technology licensing. So we're working with entrepreneurs to really see what are all the different options out there and devise a strategy that works best for them and for what they see as sustainable scaling. And then all of this have to be with this model of sustainable planet and society. So how do we scale, how do we grow while having all these planetary boundaries and societal issues into mind? The way we do this is that we structure support in several different areas. As mentioned, we work a lot with the leaders and on their resilience. Impact measurement is a really important aspect, or impact management. So we look at what is the impact ambition, what are the impact indicators, how does this relate to the sustainable development goals, and this is where we add value. And you will see through examples a bit later how this adds value when you go and talk to people and to impact investors at a global scale. If you can't put your impact within the SDGs framework, then people at the global level will not listen to you. Then, of course, access to finance, or we're now calling it resourcing, meaning based on the strategy and based on your impact ambition, what kind of resources do you need? And what kind of funding is the most suitable for you? When we talk about impact-driven entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, VCs, private equity is not always the best way to go. There is a big conversation around blended finance now about maybe some of them still want to work in the grant field, even though that's a kind of an early stage. But we really want to help entrepreneurs find the best source of funding for them and think about what is the best source of funding for them. Then scaling reach refers to developing this scaling approach that I referred to. And where we add most value is the access to networks and partnerships. Being part of the Impact Hub network, which is the biggest network of entrepreneurial communities around the world, gives us fast access to different locations. But for us as a program, there was a big word at the beginning called multi-stakeholder approach. It means that we work across sectors. We engage with the UN agencies, and this is where we use our positioning as Impact Hub Geneva. We engage with impact investors, corporates, NGOs, development agencies, to really see what is the change and impact that can happen at systemic level. So it's not just business growth and scaling up an organization, but if we want to move the needle on some of the most pressing challenges, what are the key collaborations and interventions that need to happen across sectors? So that was like kind of the theoretical part, but the more interesting part is, okay, so what are these solutions and who are these entrepreneurs? This is a selection of the international finalists of 2017 edition. You can see it's a really different, it's a really diverse portfolio in terms of geography, in terms of sectors. So for example, we have Salt from the Philippines who have developed a lantern that works only on salty water. Thank you. So basically there's a cup of water, they put salt, and then there's light, so they deliver this to remote island communities across their islands. And it's not just about renewable energy, but they raise quality of education, because these children can stay and do their homework where they don't have usually electricity, and so on. Then maybe covering another one. So Hirex, for example, from South Africa, is one of the most successful ventures of this group. They have developed a hearing aid diagnostic software that can deliver hearing diagnostics at more than 90% accuracy, but with much lower cost than hospitals usually have, and with a delivery method that can be done in pharmacies, schools, and so on. And what they've done is they've grown a lot through strategic collaborations with market leaders in the hardware sector that work with them. So they bring the software and the innovation that a startup usually can bring, and the corporate brings the market and the distribution channels and a lot of the market knowledge. Yeah, so I talked about salt, and another interesting example is Pipi from Brazil. So Ezequiel and his team have developed a formula that can be integrated in toilets, and when it removes the need to flush the toilet when it's number one. So basically, they have been saving billions of tons of water. And before the program, they were very much commercially oriented. And then after coming to Geneva and talking to a few UN agencies, talking to the International Trade Center, a lot of them actually asked, this is an amazing solution. Have you thought about refugee camps and water-scarce regions? So they actually went into this kind of avenue, and during the water crisis in Cape Town, through the Impact Hub in Johannesburg, they were connected to the market, and they set up an office in South Africa, and they're now talking to a few UN agencies on how they can deliver the product in refugee camps or in Africa. From this cohort, these are, we're still finalizing our impact report, but these are some of the key numbers. So there has been more than 100% increase in end users. The entrepreneurs combined accessed 12 new markets, and there was more than $1 million raised, with quite a good increase of more than 40% in employment. So of course this was like the top of the selection of the in the world that we did, but still we're really proud that a lot of them contributed this success to being part of the program. And what's interesting, as you see, a lot of you didn't know about the Sustainable Development Goals, even entrepreneurs that might be tackling them because you're just solving an important problem, this has been an important part of the program and has added value to the entrepreneurs and to some of them, especially in the fundraising aspect globally. So we're not doing this alone, we're doing it together with partners. That should be the Impact Hub logo there. I don't know what happened. But basically, as I was saying, we're trying, so we're not experts in all the fields of support. So what we're doing is that we engage with expert partners across fields, with consultancies, with UN agencies, impact investors, and so on, corporate partners. And we deliver the support together with them based on what the entrepreneurs need and what their scaling ambition is. I'm really proud to announce that Amazon Web Services has been onboarded this year as a partner, and for all the entrepreneurs that will be part of the national cohorts and the international cohort, they will be distributing access to their platform in value of at least 15K. So yes, for those of you who get selected into the national phase. A little bit around the process. We're now still open for applications in Serbia, and Pavle is your guy if you want to ask some more questions on how to apply. And then the program is divided in two main stages. One is the national scale ready phase, where actually you get the support needed to reflect What is your impact ambition? How do you want to scale? What is sustainable scaling for you, and what is the best scaling strategy? And then at the end of summer, each local impact hub will nominate the top 3 candidates that will go into the selection process for the international phase, which we will start in October with a global scaling week in Geneva and a social good summit in Geneva with a lot of strategic connections, global visibility, workshops, and so on, and follow-up support in the next 6 months. So these are just some of the, to kind of visually see some of the events that we've been organizing, some of the experiences of the entrepreneurs. We closed the last cohort at the UN General Assembly in New York, and we did some visits with the ecosystem there. I will not talk so much about the impact profile. I'm already out of my time, and you can talk to Pavle to learn more. But basically, we're looking at the impact. We're looking at the stage of development. So we're looking at ventures that are looking at to scale, and we're looking at the team and the scalability of the model. Can I take 1 minute to play the video? No? No? Okay. So we will play it maybe later. Okay. Thank you.